Hello everyone, welcome to today's session of Easy Dharma for Difficult Times. My name is Pastor Niral. These sessions are held every night at 9 p.m. and it's a sharing by either myself or Pastor David, and we'll be sharing Dharma with you in little easy to understand segments. So if you're joining us for the first time, hello. What I've been sharing with everyone so far is actually the Four Noble Truths. Now, if you haven't seen my sessions before, you can actually log on to Kuchara's Facebook page, and my previous live streaming sessions are there, as well as the sessions by Pastor David. So I've done 3 parts already, so today will be the concluding part of the Four Noble Truths. So in the 3 previous sessions, I have been sharing one noble truth per session, and today is going to be the last session of sharing the Four Noble Truths. So before I get into today's topic, which is the fourth noble truth, I just wanted to recap what I've covered over the last 3 sessions. So in essence, what I've been talking about is the fundamentals or the foundations of all Buddhist practice. The Four Noble Truths is actually what the Buddha originally taught. The first ever teaching that the Buddha gave was basically the Four Noble Truths. And if you understand the Four Noble Truths, you actually understand the basis and the key to success in any Buddhist practice, whether that's meditation, whether that's reciting mantras, whether that's doing retreats, whether that's doing your daily sadhana or your daily prayers. Everything kind of hinges on understanding and putting into practice these Four Noble Truths. So basically the first noble truth is that there is suffering. But what does that actually mean in our day-to-day lives? It means that we have problems. And as with anything in life, you need to understand that you have a problem before you can actually address the issue and move past it. So this is the reason why Buddha Shakyamuni actually kept this noble truth at the beginning. It was to kind of shock you out of your normal way of thinking. And when you're out of your normal way of thinking, you can actually think on a more deeper and more spiritual level to actually transform yourself to actually become a better person. And that is exactly what what Buddha wanted. So I've seen some people come online. So hi, Yinping and Chung, hello. And Pat, hello. And Ben Kui is also online. So thank you all for joining. So I covered suffering and that everybody has a problem in the first session. And in the second session, what I was talking about is the causes of this suffering. And the causes of the suffering that we go through, any problems that we go through in life, is actually karma. Now, karma is a kind of universal law, which is kind of a law of cause and effect. So everything, every result, every situation we are faced with today or throughout our lives is actually due to karma based on actions we have made in previous lives and also earlier on in this life. But then I went one step further. What I talked about was actually what causes karma itself. Why do we make certain actions that lead to either negative results or positive results? And what I talked about is what is known in Buddhism as the 3 poisons, which are basically our ignorance, our hatred, and our attachment. Now, when you make any action, whether it be a physical action, is an action that you take with your speech, or it's an action that you take with your mind. By that, I mean actually having a thought about something, about a situation, about a particular person, or even about an object. All of this is actually based on your ignorance, your hatred, and your attachment. So in daily life, if you think about anything, if you take any situation, if you take any example, you can see that if you actually take time and analyze it and contemplate it, you actually begin to understand that all of our actions are based on one of these three things. So that is what I was talking about in the second session. In the third session, which was the last session, which I think it was 2 nights ago, I was sharing the third noble truth. And the third noble truth is always kind of framed like there is a cessation of suffering. But what the third noble truth is actually talking about is the state of enlightenment. Now, when you reach that state of enlightenment, there is no more suffering. And the reason being is you have no karma. And you have no karma because you are no longer bound by your ignorance, your hatred, and your attachment. So these three things are basically the root of all of our problems in life, and all of the situations we go through in life are based on these three things. Now, within our particular lineage of practice, there is a very heavy emphasis placed on removing these three from our minds. And there's a whole variety of techniques in which you can do this. In fact, any Buddhist practice actually helps towards the removal of these three things within our mind streams. Okay? So I've seen some more people come online. Hello, Sharon. And Sukfan, hello, Mr. Lam. And Pastor Tatming, Sasa Ong's here, and Ken Hoi Lee as well. Thank you very much for joining. Again, if you've literally just joined us, what I'll be doing today is I'll be carrying on the Four Noble Truths series. And actually, today's session will be the last of the Four Noble Truths. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you've got a better understanding of what the Four Noble Truths are and actually how to implement them. Okay, Mr. Lum's asked a question, which I'll read out. Hi, Pastor. Just wanted to clarify, the three poisons are ignorance, hatred, and attachment or greed. I've heard you mention the three poisons a number of times. Okay, so basically, I think I should just clarify what the three poisons are. So the first one is ignorance, okay? The second one is actually hatred, but in some texts, they put it down as anger. So anger and hatred are used interchangeably. And then the third one is attachment. In some texts, it's called greed. In some texts, it's called attachment. In some texts, it's called desire. So all three of these are actually talking about the same thing. It's talking about attachment. So when you're greedy for something, or when you're desirous of something, whatever it may be, it is due to an attachment. So it depends. Sometimes they kind of use a different word, but the meaning is the same. Okay? So I hope that answers your question. So yesterday I was talking about the state of enlightenment, and actually what I did yesterday is actually already touched on what I wanted to talk about today, which is the fourth noble truth. And the fourth noble truth is basically how to get to enlightenment. It is the path of transformation. Okay? So, in effect, okay, probably the last time I'm going to say this, but I'm just going to recap the Four Noble Truths because it is very important to understand, especially if you want to practice the Dharma or you are already practicing the Dharma. It's very, very important to understand these three things. These four things, the Four Noble Truths. So the first is that basically we all have problems. The second is that all of these problems have a cause. The third is that these problems will ultimately end, and the state in which they are end completely is called enlightenment. And the fourth, which I'm going to talk more about today, is the way to reach the state of enlightenment. Okay? Or the way to become awakened. Okay? It sounds very far out, it sounds far-fetched. You're going to think now, okay, it's the Buddha is enlightened. How am I going to reach that state? Now this actually brings me back to something that His Eminence Tenma Rinpoche once said. He said, when you put a statue of an enlightened being on your altar, when you make prayers and when you make offerings, what happens usually is that you make this distance between yourself and the Buddha. You make this distance between yourself and an enlightened being. As Buddhists who are practicing, okay, we fall into this category a lot. We do this a lot. When we make prayers, we always think of, I'm quite lowly, I don't have that much wisdom, I don't have that much clarity, I don't have that much compassion, and the Buddha is up there. He's up there and the Buddha is perfect, or any enlightened being is perfect, but I'm just here. So what we do is we create that gap. And you can actually see this in the way that people go about their practice, go about their daily sadhanas or their meditations, or even just studying the Dharma. But Rinpoche said this is actually false thinking. Yes, we do venerate the enlightened beings. Yes, we do make offerings to them. Yes, we do make prayers and aspirational prayers and prayers to clear obstacles and prayers to generate merit. But this isn't a correct way of thinking according to Buddhism, because according to Buddhism, everybody has the potential to become enlightened. When we're making prayers and making offerings to enlightened beings, we're not actually making it for them. They don't actually need any of it. What we're doing is we're generating merit for ourselves. And when we generate merit for ourselves, it actually helps us to understand the teachings more, to be able to transform ourselves to become better. Now, a lot of us, especially, or a lot of Buddhists basically, they will say they're Buddhist, and on outward appearances, it would seem they're Buddhist. They have an altar, every day they sit down and they do their prayers, and they're very structured about it. They make sure that they do it every day without fail. And yes, this is extremely important. But His Eminence Tenma Rinpoche always used to say, if you spend 1 hour on the meditation cushion or doing your prayers, real practice, real Buddhism is actually the other 23 hours that you spend off the meditation cushion. It's actually how you put into practice your meditation and your contemplation, and how you put into practice your prayers. Now, what do I mean by that? Putting into practice prayers. If you read any Buddhist prayers, okay, let's just take the refuge prayer. Okay, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and until enlightened, I seek refuge. Through giving and other perfections to aid all, may I become a Buddha. Okay, that is the refuge plus the bodhicitta motivation verse that we always recite at the beginning of any prayers, at the beginning of anything we do, basically. But how many of us are actually putting that into practice? We can say it, we can recite it, but are we putting it into practice? Are we being a more generous person? Are we practicing other perfections? And the reason they're called perfections is when you practice them, you become perfect. They're the things you need to practice to become an enlightened being. Okay? So understanding the Four Noble Truths is a way of actualizing your prayers. It's a way of understanding what you need to do in a day-to-day level to be able to reach enlightenment. Okay, we've had some more people come online. Hi, Jerry. Nice to see you here again. And then got a comment from Sharon. She says, attachment and greed are used interchangeably, depends on what text. Yep, you're completely right there. Pastor Gimli's joined us. Thank you for coming online. Okay, so that being said, the path to enlightenment, the fourth noble truth, what we need to do, basically, in a nutshell, and people who have been to any of my sharings before or been to any of the classes that I've held are gonna say, "Oh no, he's droning on about that again." But basically, it comes down to two things. Okay, one is the purification of negative karma, and the second is the accumulation of merit. Okay. Actually, when you engage in any Buddhist practice, it automatically includes these two elements. So for those of you who already know some of the practices we do here in Kachara, one of them is obviously the practice of Lama Tsongkhapa and Dorje Shugden. So when you actually engage in these practices, two things happen. You accumulate merit and you purify your negative karma. Similarly, in any Buddhist practice you do, whether it be Tara, or whether it be Manjushri, whether it be Vajrapani, whether it be any practice, any prayers, these two things actually happen. Now, these things actually happen when we're in our prayers. But remember, I was talking about real Buddhism, real transformation of the mind is those 23 hours off the meditation cushion. It's the time when you're not actually praying. Okay? It's how you live and how you interact and how you respond to the world around you. Okay? So in the previous session, I talked about the three poisons, and I talked about what I term as the antidote to the three poisons, which are known as the three higher trainings. Okay, so usually they're called renunciation, bodhicitta, and shunyata, or the correct view. Okay, but then I wanted to say that those terms are very academic in a sense, and not many people know how to implement that in daily life. So I kind of changed the words that we used, or the terms, and I basically said to practice wisdom, to practice generosity, and to practice compassion. Now these three things actually counter the three poisons. And I talked about it more in the previous session, so I'm not going to get into it too much, okay, today. So okay, yeah, okay. Sharon Ong actually shared the quote by Rinpoche. She said, "Dharma is not about the 1 hour you spend on the meditation cushion, but the 23 hours off it." So she has actually provided a link there, a Facebook link, so you can actually go and see the quote if you want to. Okay, let me see if there's anybody else that's joined. Okay. So I'm actually going to get into the bulk of what I wanted to talk today. Okay, so basically I'm going to explain or talk a little bit more about the path. And following the Buddha's teachings, what I've done is I've simplified it into 8 things that you can do. 8 things that you can do and to actually work along the path. And these, again, were also taught by Buddha Shakyamuni as part of the Fourth Noble Truth. It was an elucidation of what you should do on the path. Okay? So, the first one, which I'm going to share with all of you, which I hope you can read. Can you read?
Yeah,
Is it backwards?
Yeah, it's in reverse. Sorry.
Okay. All right, it's in reverse, so maybe I won't use that. Okay. Okay, the first one is right understanding. Okay. All right, so it's right understanding. Okay, so what does right understanding actually mean? Right understanding basically in this context actually means knowing the Four Noble Truths. Okay? So I've kind of made it simpler so everybody can do it at home and understand what these 8 things are. So right understanding, I'm going to leave at understanding the Four Noble Truths. Okay? So if you have any questions so far about any of the Noble Truths that I've been mentioning over the last couple of sessions and this session, please do ask on the comments section and I'll answer it here, because this is an interactive session. So please do ask questions, please make any comments, and I will answer it. So the first thing I wanted to share is right understanding. So it's basically understanding the Noble Truths. And I've been droning on and on about this for the past 4 sessions, but when you understand the Four Noble Truths, it's actually the key to transformation in your life. Now, we all want to improve our lives in some way or another, and the Four Noble Truths are the way of doing it. So the first thing I wanted to share with you today as part of the path to transformation is understanding. And that comes about through not just studying, but actually contemplation of the Four Noble Truths. And especially when you get into the Four Noble Truths, each stage, you actually need to contemplate it. So I don't know if you remember in the first session that I did with you, everyone, I was talking about suffering. And then I asked everybody to take a little bit of time out. And I also mentioned that Rinpoche used to say at the end of every day, actually, review the actions that you've taken throughout the day and understand what they were based on, basically. So this is actually putting the first Noble Truth into action. And then when you put the second Noble Truth into action, this is when you take that contemplation and that meditation a bit further. You understand that your actions are based on something, or the situations you encountered in your life are based on something. And those situations and the actions you took are based on karma. And then one step further again, and you get to the 3 poisons. Then when you come to understanding the third Noble Truth, it is about actually understanding what a Buddha is. Okay, Buddhahood, enlightenment, is a state where you no longer have any of these. Okay, and when you no longer have any of these, you're not suffering in any way. Okay, but right understanding is also doing what you're doing right now, which is listening to somebody share the Dharma with you. This is also right understanding. So what I'm sharing with you now is the path that the Buddha taught to overcome all of this and actually get you to that enlightened state. So that is right understanding. Okay. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is what is often labeled as right thoughts, thinking correctly. What's the right way of thinking that the Buddha prescribed, especially on the path of transformation? Actually, I've already covered it within the previous sessions, which is to develop that wisdom, to develop that generosity, and to develop compassion. Now, if you want to hear more about those 3 things, you can actually watch the last session that I did, which was on the third Noble Truth. I actually spoke about it in more detail in that session. Okay. The third is actually called right speech. Okay, it is the correct way of speaking. All right. Now, this is going to apply to everyone out there watching this at the moment, and the reason is we are stuck at the moment in the movement control order, so we can't go out. Okay, so we're actually in a situation where we might be living with our spouses or our family or brothers and sisters or our children or even our parents or maybe even friends that we live with. When we're in such close proximity together and we realize that we're actually suffering because we're not getting, our attachments aren't being met. And if you want to hear more about attachments, you can watch Pastor David sharing, I think last week, on the psychology of boredom, which was a very good introduction in how attachment actually works. When those attachments aren't fulfilled, we start getting irritated. Now, actually, when we start getting irritated, even though the irritation is in our mind, the most easiest thing to do in these situations is say something. And when you say something, when you're irritated or angry or frustrated or you can't get your attachments are being met, what comes out of your mouth is actually usually negative. Okay? And because we're in such close proximity with people during the movement control order or lockdown anywhere else in the world, if you're watching anywhere else in the world, you're bound to say something that you're going to regret later. Okay? Or you're bound to say something out of irritation. You're bound to say something out of anger. Now, the Buddha actually told us to guard our speech. Okay? Speech is actually something that is, it's how we communicate. Okay? But it's also how we damage or how we hurt or how we get into situations that we really shouldn't be in usually. Okay? Because of the way in which we use our speech. So it's going to be very, very easy for people in our situations to get into a negative argument. You're going to frustrate somebody else with your speech. You're going to maybe even anger somebody because the way you speak. And on the other end of it, the way that people are speaking to you, you're going to react more strongly to it because our attachments are not being met and our minds are irritated. Speech is something, as well as being extremely negative usually, it's also something that can be extremely positive. Okay? Even just saying hello to somebody or telling somebody that you care about them, it's actually extremely uplifting. Or just speaking nice to somebody, or talking about another person's good qualities, or even just opening up and discussing and just talking with a person. That is actually the positive sides of right speech. So the Buddha actually said for us to do everything. So traditionally speaking, the Buddha told us not to do 4 things, which is not to lie, not to speak bad about somebody or to slander somebody, don't abuse anybody with your speech, and also not to gossip. Okay? So usually when we talk about right speech, these are the 4 things that we're to guard against. But actually it's more than that. Actually using your speech to be of benefit and to be more kind to somebody, to be more kind to the people you're with, to be more compassionate to the people you're with, is that it's a tool that not a lot of us actually use when we're developing compassion or practicing kindness. But it's something that you can actually use right now, okay, to improve the situations that we're all in, improve your relationships with the people that you're living with at the moment, that we're in the movement control order with. So that's number 3, which is right speech. Okay, I have a comment from Mr. Lum here. Negativity from our speech could be due to we focus on the negative aspect of a person we're speaking with. Is this right? If we focus on the positive aspects, our speech will be different. You've hit the nail on the head there. Usually, when our speech is negative, we're focusing on the negative qualities, especially if we're irritated with somebody. Okay? Now, since we're living in close proximity with each other, one of the things that is going to irritate people the most is the little quirks that people have when they go about their day-to-day life. Maybe the way you cut your vegetables, or maybe you left the tap on for too long. Maybe you didn't clean up the table after you had your meal. These little things, because we're actually stuck with each other right now, these little things are going to irritate us. And when you concentrate and focus on those really, really minute things where you get irritated, you're overemphasizing those things. And then you're going to speak, and then you're going to react from that irritation. And that is actually what the Buddha told us not to do. He said if you actually want to transform, you actually need to catch yourself before you do that, and to stop yourself from doing that. Okay? Then you also use it as a tool to understand, why is that getting on my nerves so much? Why does that irritate me? Okay? Okay, he's cutting vegetables. Okay, maybe it's not the way that I cut the vegetables, but I mean, the vegetables are still going to be cooked and we're still going to eat it. It's still going to taste the same. It's just cut in a different way. Okay? Now, I know this sounds absurd to some people right now, but in our situation, when we're in lockdown, things like these will happen. And I can tell you, anybody watching this now is going to go through some sort of irritation like this, especially when you're staying with another person. So when this happens, do not react verbally, do not react physically, but just kind of understand that this is happening, take a step back, and then deal with the irritation and deal with the emotion. And a lot of people ask how to start going about doing that. How do I take that step back to get into that frame of mind where I can actually deal with it? One of the best ways of doing it is to practice concentration meditation, or meditation in general. So if you don't know how to do it, please join JP on the Kajara Forest Retreat page every morning at 8:30, and he's guiding you through meditation. So he does it with you, and he guides you through what to do. Now, when you do this meditation, what actually happens is you're able to calm your mind down. When you're able to calm your mind down, you're able to focus more, and you're able to step back more from those negative emotions that you're feeling, especially when they arise. And when you do that, you're able to stop negative situations in your life from arising, because you basically stop them from manifesting. You stop reacting out of negative emotions. And that's how you're able to transform yourself to become a better person. Okay? Got a comment from Chung. Okay. Got a couple of comments from Chung. In this day and age, I don't think our desires are so difficult to obtain. Even in MCO, we have Grab, Shopee, Lazada, Amazon. So how are we to practice? As well as that, we've also got Netflix and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Okay. It's a very, very good comment. You see, this comes back to what Pastor David was actually saying in his The Psychology of Boredom video, which is the first sharing he did for the Easy Dharma for Difficult Times series. Which is that even though you've got it and your desire, and you're easily able to obtain what you desire, okay, you have to come up with that determination or that strength of mind to actually want to step back and actually view it as an attachment. Okay, so Pastor David was talking about attachment and how you overemphasize the good qualities of something. And when you overemphasize the good qualities of something, you become attached to it, or you become desirous after it. And when that happens, when you don't get it, you suffer. So that's what the suffering aspect comes into, how I've been explaining what Pastor David was talking about. But in this day and age, when, yes, you're right, it's very easy to obtain what we want. That's why you actually need a meditation practice. That's why you need a contemplation practice. To be able to give you that mental maneuvering, that room to maneuver mentally, to actually just step back a little bit and actually realize that you're playing into your attachments. You might not need what you're getting to live or to survive. It's just that you're attached to it, or you're attached to the idea of having it that makes you want to do it. So it's a very good question. No, comment, sorry. Another comment from Chung, there is so much room to engage in negative speech, and you're absolutely correct. But where does this room come from, actually? This room comes from, to engage in negative speech, it comes from because usually when we speak, when you speak from an emotional reaction, you actually don't go through a logical process. You just say the first thing that kind of comes into your head, or react out of emotion rather than logic. So words are actually out of your body, your speech, and your mind. Words, using your speech, is the easiest to do out of compared to physically, to actually harm another person, to actually create conflict. Speech is easier than physical actions. But on the other side, speech is also quicker to create a positive action, to create a positive outcome and a positive situation. So speech is usually very quick in the way that you convey a message and that a message is received by another person. Whether in the way you meant it or not is a different question, but that's just the way it is at the moment. That's why the Buddha actually placed a lot of emphasis on correct speech, because it is so destructive, but on the other hand, because it is so beneficial. Okay? Okay, Mr. Lum's also got another comment. To minimize our negative speech, it is also important to practice patience. This way we will have lesser negative speech. I hope this works, but for me it works. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. When you practice patience, you're actually able to control your speech more. So this is one of the benefits of practicing patience as well. So I'm going to move on to the fourth, which is right action. Now, traditionally speaking, right action is again classified as 3 actions that we should not do. Okay? So right action, so the 3 things that we should not do is we should not kill, we should not take a life. The second is we should not steal, and the third is we should not engage in sexual misconduct. Now again, these 3 things are pretty explanatory. I'm not going to get into these 3 today, but it is something that we're always talking about within Buddhist teachings, and it's something that we always focus on. But again, usually when people are talking about right action, they don't really talk about the positive side of right action. And this is what I want to focus on. Right action is things that we do or we can do to make our lives better and to initiate change within ourselves, but also to make the lives of others better. Okay? So now we're in MCO together. Right action. Okay? How are you going to make the lives of the people that you're living with better? What are you going to do to be more compassionate? What are you going to do to be kinder? How are you going to do it? So just take a bit of time and think about, how do you do something good in these situations? How do you do something good for the people that you're living with? And when you actually think about it and you actually start doing it, you will see a transformation. And within the MCO, especially when we're all at home, you'll see the way that your suffering actually switches. You actually will suffer less and you'll actually concentrate on doing more positive things. And this actually brings about an incredible rejuvenation, if you were, between our relationships with the people that we're actually living with. So do something for the people that you're with. Do something good. Okay? Number 5 is right livelihood. Now, right livelihood is usually means making a livelihood from a job or a way of living that doesn't harm other people. Okay? Not just harming other people, but also means harming other sentient beings, harming animals. Okay? So it covers all of this. So usually these are things that are seen as trading in arms or trading in meat or the flesh of animals or animal products. Things like this that actually have a direct correlation to bringing harm to people, okay, or animals. Number 6 is right effort. Okay, now here right effort usually means, again, usually when you're talking about it, it comes from, it's usually from the negative point of view. So they say put effort into not doing negative things. So put effort into not killing, not stealing, the actions that we've talked about, and the speech that we've talked about, the negative aspects of speech that we've talked about. This right effort means putting effort and striving every single day not to do these things. But again, right effort also has a positive side to it. It is also about doing good things with your time, helping other people, developing that compassion, developing that generosity that I was talking about. Okay. Number 7 is right mindfulness. Okay. So a lot of people ask, what is mindfulness? Okay. Mindfulness is actually being aware. Is being aware of your actions. But it's not just your physical actions that I'm talking about. It's also your verbal actions. And also it's your mental actions. So this again comes back to having that concentration of, or that leeway to actually step back from your emotional state and kind of see how you think and how you behave and how you act. And this comes about through meditation, which is one method in how it comes about. So again, that's why that's why meditation is so fundamental to Buddhism, because it is the tool that gives you that ability to actually step back from that emotional state and make logical and rational decisions. That is what right mindfulness actually is. Okay? And the 8th is right concentration. Alright? Usually in Buddhist texts and Buddhist teachings, this is actually talking about a state of meditation, okay, that you reach. But on a day-to-day level, on a practical aspect, it is also that you should put emphasis on and you should concentrate on developing that wisdom, developing that compassion, and developing that generosity that I've been talking about. You concentrate on these 3 things. So instead of concentrating on going on Lazada and buying that random useless item, or watching that new series on Netflix, okay, when you could be spending your time actually, bettering yourself, bettering your relationships with the people you're living with currently. Concentrate on those things. Okay, that's what right concentration is all about. So what I've actually covered is these 8 things. These 8 things are actually what the Buddha termed the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, and this path is basically what the Buddha taught to work on and progress on the path towards enlightenment. Now there are obviously advanced stages to this, but I wanted to share this with you today because a lot of us, what we do is we go over, when we practice Buddhism, we kind of gloss over the Four Noble Truths, which is one of the reasons I wanted to concentrate on it so much. And then we gloss over that Noble Eightfold Path because we consider it to be too basic. And then we just go on to a better, or what we consider higher teachings, because we think we're at that level of being able to comprehend complex philosophical things and then put them into practice. But actually the fact is, the basic matter of the fact is that you may be able to understand the higher teachings intellectually, but if you haven't incorporated study, meditation, contemplation, and action based on the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path into your day-to-day life, okay, no matter how much of the advanced practices you want to do, they won't be successful. And there's a reason. All of the advanced practices are all based on the Four Noble Truths, and the Noble Eightfold Path. So the more you have a grasp and understanding and practice and daily practice of engaging in the Four Noble Truths and engaging in the Noble Eightfold Path, that is going to make your higher practices more effective. Now, what do I mean by higher practices in this sense? What I mean by higher practices is things like Lam Rim. Okay? We're in Kachara. A lot of you have all been to our Lam Rim classes, or have studied the Lam Rim or know the Lam Rim. But did you ever realize that the entire Lam Rim is actually based on the Four Noble Truths? If you understood the Four Noble Truths, or had at least a good firm grounding in them, your understanding of the Lam Rim will be much more easier. It wouldn't be that difficult for you to comprehend, because each section of the Lam Rim actually fits into one or more of the Four Noble Truths. So if you do want to master teachings like the Lam Rim, if you do want to generate compassion and kindness, where do you start? You actually start with the Four Noble Truths. You actually start with the Noble Eightfold Path. And I'll tell you something, everyone who is watching this now is in the perfect place to do this. You're in the perfect situation to do this, okay? Because you're in MCO. I mean, a lot of you may still be working, but you've got a lot of time, and you're in the perfect place to practice. Who better to practice with than the people you live with? Okay? Because if you can't generate compassion, generate kindness for the people that you live with and the relationships that you have with them, do not even talk about generating compassion for all sentient beings. Okay? Don't even talk about being a good person, a good Buddhist for all sentient beings. Generate it with the people and develop it with the people you're living with right now, and then extend it to everyone else. If you can't do it in the relationships you have right this minute, maybe even with the person that you're sitting next to right now watching this with, hopefully, you're not going to be able to do it with anybody else. It's going to be extremely hard. Do it with the people that you love, that you care about now. Okay? Make a difference in their life. Start there. Okay? So, I've got a couple of more questions, I think. Okay, Mr. Lam asked, what's the difference between right effort versus right action? Okay, right action is literally the doing of, the physical doing of something. So it is the physical doing of not killing. It is the physical doing of not stealing. On the positive side is the physical doing of being generous. It's the physical doing of being a kind person. Okay, whether that is being there for somebody or giving somebody what they need. So an obvious example would be to actually go and feed the homeless. Okay, that's a right action. Right effort here is a bit different. So it doesn't necessarily describe the action, it describes the effort that you need to put in to actually do that action. Okay? It can be positive, it can be negative. So right effort in this sense could be to make efforts to actually ensure that you can go and you do go and feed a homeless person. But it can also mean to stop yourself from doing something negative, to stop yourself from stealing something, to stop yourself from killing something. Okay? An example of this is that, okay, we live in Malaysia, it's a tropical country, and especially here in Kachara Forest Retreat, there are a lot of insects. Okay? Because we're smack bam in the middle of a jungle. Okay? And one insect that we do get a lot of around here is actually ants. Okay? Now, when you have an ant infestation, there's a gazillion ants everywhere, and you usually don't know what to do. Now, from a secular perspective, the thing that we do from a secular perspective when you're not practicing Buddhism would be, okay, kill as many as you can and just get rid of them. All right? Now, from a Buddhist perspective, obviously, because our right action here is you're not to kill. Don't kill. But the thing is that you might be in a situation where your entire kitchen is completely chock-a-block full of ants. There's like millions and millions and millions of them. So even though the right action is here is not to kill, you still have to put that effort into thinking, wait, stop, I'm not going to kill. Even though there's so many of them, I am not going to kill. I am going to find a way to get all of these ants safely out of my kitchen without killing them. Okay? So this is where the effort comes in. Okay? So there's a slight difference between right action and right effort. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. All right. Okay, I've got a good question from Sean. How does Dharma Protector practice fit into this? Now, okay, I'm going to come at Dharma Protector practice from the angle of the Four Noble Truths. Dharma Protector practice fits into this in... Actually, you can slot Dharma Protector practice into any of the Four Noble Truths. It just depends on how you're looking at it. Okay, so from the point of view of the first noble truth, there is suffering. How does Dharma Protector practice come into this? The whole point of Dharma Protector practice is that you need a practice, you need help in some way to hold back your negative karma, to stop you from suffering in some way or another. So if you're going through any problems in life, you're going through financial difficulties, you're having black magic problems, you're having spirit disturbances, you're having family problems, all of this is actually due to negative karma. So due to that negative karma, you do protector practice. So from the point of view of the first noble truth, because there is suffering, you need a Dharma protector practice. Okay? From the second point, so the second noble truth is that suffering comes from somewhere. Now, how does Dharma protector practice fit into the second noble truth? Well, all of our suffering is due to our karma, and that's exactly what Dharma protector practice helps us to keep at bay. But also, if it's an enlightened Dharma protector, also helps us to purify the negative karma. Okay? So, in a sense, so that's how Dharma protector practice fits into the second. Now you get to the third, which is all suffering ceases. There is a state in which suffering no longer exists. Okay, Dharma practice per se, normal the practice of a worldly Dharma protector, for example, actually won't help you with the second two of the noble truths. But if it's an enlightened Dharma protector, then it will. So when you do Dharma protector practice, say of Doja Shugden, how does it fit into the third noble truth? One, it plants the seeds of enlightenment within your mind. Why? Because Doja Shugden is Manjushri, Manjushri is enlightened. In the state of enlightenment, there is no suffering. Okay? So when you do Doja Shugden's practice, on a very, very, very subtle level, you are actually planting the imprints of Manjushri, the imprints of enlightenment within your mind stream. Okay? At the same time, Dharma protector practice is all about holding your negative karma back. Okay? It's about holding your negative karma back and giving you the opportunity to be able to do something about it. And this is how it fits into the fourth noble truth, which is the path to enlightenment. Now, when you're practicing anything, meditation, whatever, we have Dharma protector practice, and we should make use of it, because Dharma protector practice actually does help us to get rid of obstacles that we face in our Dharma, in a Dharma journey, in our spiritual transformation, in our inner transformation. And at the same time, we actually purify our negative karma. How do we purify that negative karma when we do Dharma protector practice? There are certain elements of enlightened Dharma protector practice, like Doja Shugden's practice, that actually help us to purify the negative karma. One example is the Kawang prayer, also known as the Kanchak prayer within Doja Shugden's practice. This prayer actually purifies the negative karma. Okay? But on the other hand, because you're doing Dharma protector practice, you're actually given the opportunity to, and the conditions will manifest for you to actually concentrate more on practicing the path. When you practice the path more, that in itself will generate merit and purify your negative karma. When you do
have a motivation to help others, and you generate that wisdom, that generosity, and that compassion that I've been talking about, that is what the path is all about. And Dharma Protector Practice bolsters that. It helps you and allows you to be able to do that with more time, to spend more time on it without needing to worry about secular things. So that is actually how Dharma Protector Practice fits into it. And actually, Chung's question is very good, because I know I've said this, but actually anything that we're doing within Kachara, anything that we do in Kachara, anything that we do in Buddhism, all fits into these Four Noble Truths. And I mean, I can't stress enough the importance of understanding that. And when you understand that, you actually have a greater appreciation for the Dharma things that we do, whether it's doing puja, whether it's going to Dharma class, whether it's learning, whether it's rolling mantras, whether it's making tatas, okay? Whether it's coming to KFR, lighting candles, going for circumambulation around Kachara Forest Retreat, whether it's even just joining these live streamings every night and learning more, or even going through meditation with JP in the mornings. It brings you a real sense of understanding and meaning to any Dharma practice whatsoever. Okay? And it makes it more meaningful. Okay? And it actually gives you a confidence and the drive to want to practice it more. So this is actually something that I wanted to share with all of you, and this is what was the point of my entire 4 sessions on the Four Noble Truths, is to get this across to you. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to take one last question, which is again from Chung. Is it okay to do protector practice to ask that our desires such as wealth is fulfilled? Now, Chung asked a very good question. Can you engage in Dharma protector practice to make our desires come true? Okay, so the answer is, okay, I'm not going to say yes and I'm not going to say no. I'm going to explain it a little bit. All right. When we engage in Dharma protector practice, the Dharma protectors and enlightened beings will actually give us what we need to live. Okay, so if you're after wealth, if you're after good things, they will give it to you. If that is what you need to live. If it is beneficial for you, they will definitely help you get it. They will definitely help to purify the karma stopping you from getting it, and to generate the merit that you can actually benefit from it. So yes, you will get it. But, and here's the but, you'll only get it if it is beneficial for you. Okay? I'm going to give you an example. You're praying to Dojo Shugden and you're praying for wealth. Maybe you don't have enough money to put, to feed your family, to clothe your family, to give your kids an education, to look after your parents. Dojo Shugden will help you in those things because you are being compassionate. Because it's not just about yourself; it's actually about other people. So Dojo Shugden in this example will help you, but he might not help you in the way that you want him to help. Okay, so he might not give you the money that you're desiring and that you want, that you think will solve your problem, but he might send you another resource in your life that you can actually, I can help you to do all of these things. Okay, so maybe a friend comes along and helps you, or somebody in your family gets a job themselves and is able to help you financially support your family. These are the ways in which Dojo Shugden helps. So when you have a need and you ask Dojo Shugden or any Dharma protector for something, you might not get it in the way that you want, but if it's going to be beneficial for you, then the Dharma protector is obviously going to help. He's an enlightened being. He has compassion. Another example, however, would be you're perfectly fine. You have a roof over your head. You have clothes on your back. Your family is perfectly fine. You have a savings account. You have enough food in your stomach. You're perfectly okay. But you have an attachment and you want more money. Okay, you want more money to buy another car. You've already got 3 cars, you want another one. Will Dorje Shugden help you in this sense? Okay? Now, no, he won't in this sense, in the way that you want. Because when you pray to him, he knows that if he does give you more money and you do get that 4th car, one day you're going to end up in an accident and be seriously injured because you're driving that car really fast. Okay? So Dorje Shugden, out of his compassion, will not give you the money, but he may give you that fulfillment or that satisfaction that you're looking for in another way. Okay? Maybe he generates the conditions in your life, or a situation in your life where you're actually able to get along with your family better. Okay? When you have this ability or this situation in which harmony increases within your family, maybe you're no longer so attached to getting that 4th car. So this is just a couple of ways that Dorje Shugden, the Dharma Protector Practice, can help. So I hope that answers your question. So got a comment which I'm going to end with by Pastor Tatming. Dharma is so profound and beautiful. We can also look at the 4 noble truths from the aspects of the 3 higher trainings, or the 6 paramitas, or the 6 perfections. And it's a very good comment that Pastor Tatming has made. Okay, so I'm going to end it there, today's session. So, okay, so this marks the end of my 4 Noble Truths series. And I hope you've learned a lot. This was the 4th session. Remember to watch the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd if you want to follow what I discussed about the earlier 3 Noble Truths. I hope this has been a good learning experience for everyone. So, if you do have any questions, you can answer them here. Now, we'll probably answer them in my next session. So thank you everyone for joining. So stay home, stay safe, and stay spiritual. And join Pastor David tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for his Dharma sharing. Thank you. Good night.